my suggestion would be like to focus more into a practical side, not into a theoretical side, because like my illustration, I generally prefer like seeing the details of the garment, which I generally start focusing through the silhouettes only.
Hi Paras, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. What about you?
I'm also doing well. So, myself Muskan from Budha Group of Institutions welcomes you to the team of BGI.
Thank you so much.
So, my question to you is from scrap to the idea and to the sketch, what makes your illustration to stand out from the crowd?
So basically, when I get started with any of like my illustrations, I generally prefer like seeing the details of the garment, which I generally start focusing through the silhouettes only. Ki what exactly is the proper silhouette of the garment? What all colors are basically used, and the textures, the fabrics, and the prints. So I generally like make a notes of each and every details. Then I like keep on like searching for a best croquis pose, which I can like use for illustrating that garment. And then I basically prefer making a basic silhouette so that at least the basic outline of the garment can be easily recognized. Then I work on creating the fabric textures and then the embroidery and the print, so that tiny details which I focus, that is basically which makes my work a little more like impressive and presentable towards the other.
That's great, and that truly depicts down that you set a pioneer for the fashion industry for the digital illustrations. So, my next question to you is what role does a fashion illustration play to the industry and how does it create an impact?
Basically, when we get started with any design process, or when we want to like design some garments for any company or for ourselves also, then we need to understand how exactly the silhouettes will look like, how exactly our designs will look like after the production. So for that thing, we need to understand that before even going for production, because if we directly think of like, for example, making a basic kurti also, if we directly go for a production, maybe that will not turn out the best thing what we were thinking. So that illustrations can help us to actually understand how exactly we want to make the garments and what all colors we can use. So that illustrations can plays a very important role in like deciding the actual silhouettes and designing the garments. We can actually show properly ki how the silhouettes we want to do, how the prints we want to do. So we can make everything in that illustrations. We can also put out some variations, then we can out of these variations we can choose one look, and that can help us in the design process, like to make it a little more clear. Our vision can becomes like very clear through the illustrations. Okay, how illustrations can like basically make us life a little better in terms of like as a designs, and even it like help us to save a lot of cost, because if we directly go into production, maybe that garments will not turn out how we were thinking, but that ideas what we are having, so if we just portray that on the sketches, so it will be better to understand the designs before going for production. So that's how the illustrations can help us to like in the design process.
Okay. So my next question to you is like how does illustration communicates and what role does it plays to the designers?
So basically, illustration, if we look at any sketch or any painting, we generally it tells us a story. Similar to like illustrations also tell us a story about the designs, or like what is basically vision behind that garment. And that garment vision can be clearly like we can see from that illustrations when we talk about the necklines, when we talk about the textures what we are going to use, or the fabrics or textiles. So it can tell us like a lot of things in that sketch, so we can like go for production. Even like if we think of getting into production with the masters and other people, if we outsource our work, then also these illustrations can help us to get into production very easily. Because if we just normally explain someone ki what is our designs, maybe that person will not understand better. But if we show them our sketches, even if we want to get an order from clients, so these sketches can help us to get a like good client, so the client can actually understand well about the designs properly.
Okay. Now, what is your message to the budding designers and the budding students who are actually in this field?
So my suggestion would be like to focus more into a practical side, not into a theoretical side, because this industry involves a lot of like efforts in terms of like process and to understand how the actual garments is being designed. Because just making a illustration or just understanding what all things are there in the designing won't help you much. You have to actually go to the workspaces, you visit the industrials, or you go for any export house visit, just have a look at the actual garments. Or if you are like not that much privileged to visit these export houses, you can go towards like boutiques or like small shops near around you, so that you can actually explore how the designs are done, how a basic kurti or basic garments can be designed. So this can help the designers to understand the design process better, or you can say the production thing better. So that is the one thing. Apart from that, you should understand how the garment is constructed. You should focus much on the pattern making as well, how the patterns has been designed, because if you know how to construct a collar, you can basically design different collars. You can give even the variations also, because that is something come out if you understand the fundamentals, because make your fundamentals that much clear. Okay, because when you go on any job, so mostly your work is like designing only, but you have to understand how that design can be constructed, or if any master or tailor is stitching that design, if that master or tailor gets stuck, so how you should solve that thing. So these things you need to understand, so this can help you make a stand out in terms of your job interviews and your job profiles.
Paras, is it feasible, students should be well aware about the design process regarding creating an illustration? So, design process does plays an important role for it or not?
Yeah, definitely. If you are like just copying a design from like one image to a illustration, maybe that time you won't require any design process, because a lot of clients just want to illustrate that same garment. But when it comes to like designing a garment from the scratch, or some people like give us the work, this will be the neckline, this will be the color, this will be the silhouette. So we need to mix everything together and make a illustration. So then the design process is required. If you know the complete design process, so it will be easy for you to like design the proper garments. You should know how the inspiration is done and how the mood boards are done. So these all things can help you to make a very good illustration, and like you can basically get into perfection little more better.
So, Paras, it was very nice to have a conversation with you, and this workshop is a benchmark to all of the fashion students for BGI as well as for others as well. So, we heartfully thank you to be a part of BGI.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.